Christmas morning, 2024. I should have known something was wrong when Sarah insisted we open presents at her parents' house instead of our own place. She'd been acting strange for weeks, working late constantly, taking phone calls in the other room with hushed, conspiratorial tones. But I figured it was just holiday stress from her real estate business picking up before year-end. December's always crazy in Phoenix real estate, everyone trying to close deals before the tax deadline. I'm an electrician, been working commercial installations for 8 years now, pulling down about 65 grand annually when you factor in the overtime. Good money for Phoenix, especially with the weekend grind I'd been putting in at the new medical complex downtown. Every extra hour went straight into our joint savings account. $18,000 we'd scraped together for a house down payment over 3 years of marriage. Sarah had been looking at places in Scottsdale, always talking about upgrading our lifestyle and how we needed to think bigger than a starter home. The thing about electrical work is it teaches you to pay attention to warning signs. A flickering light, a warm outlet, a circuit that trips for no apparent reason. Ignore these signals and you're looking at a fire. I'd been seeing warning signs in my marriage for months, but I kept telling myself it was just temporary stress. Sarah criticizing my work clothes more often. Comments about how professional couples dress and act. Suggestions that I should consider something cleaner for my career. The Brady family Christmas gathering was in full swing when I walked into their ranch-style home in Desert Ridge. Sarah's parents, Whitney and Brady, had the place decorated like a magazine spread. Professionally hung lights, coordinated ornaments, the kind of Christmas perfection that costs serious money. Her sister Ashley was there too, looking uncomfortable in the corner, wearing scrubs since she'd just gotten off her nursing shift at Phoenix General. Ashley had always been the quiet one, the one who actually asked about my work instead of suggesting I should find something better. Sarah was holding court near the Christmas tree, surrounded by her usual crew of real estate friends. They all had that polished look, perfect makeup, designer clothes, expensive handbags draped casually over chair backs. The kind of women who'd never touched a circuit breaker in their lives, but somehow had opinions about career advancement and professional image. When I walked in carrying the gift I'd bought Sarah, a professional portfolio case she'd mentioned wanting, the conversation stopped for just a second, long enough for me to notice the uncomfortable glances, the way Megan shifted in her seat. "Bryce is here," Sarah announced, her voice carrying that artificial cheer she used with difficult clients. "Perfect timing. I have a very special gift for you this year, something I've been planning for weeks." She handed me a beautifully wrapped box, heavy stock wrapping paper, professional bow, the works. The kind of presentation she always insisted on because image matters in everything we do, even gift giving. I could feel everyone watching as I carefully peeled back the tape. Sarah had trained me early in our marriage to open gifts slowly, to give her time to get pictures for her social media accounts. Inside the box, nestled in tissue paper like something precious, were divorce papers, professionally printed on law firm letterhead, already signed by her attorney, dated 3 days prior. The petition cited irreconcilable differences and requested an immediate separation of assets. There was even a sticky note attached, "Please review and sign at your earliest convenience." The room went silent. Even the Christmas music seemed to stop. I stared at the papers for a long moment, reading the legal language that dissolved 3 years of marriage in clinical, businesslike terms. Then I looked up at Sarah. She was smiling, not a sad, apologetic smile, not the expression of someone delivering difficult news. A satisfied, almost gleeful smile, like she'd just pulled off the perfect surprise party. "Merry Christmas," she said, her voice bright with false cheer. "I've been trying to figure out how to tell you, and I realize the holidays are all about new beginnings, right? Fresh starts and new chapters?" Her friend Megan actually giggled. Whitney Brady gasped and covered her mouth with perfectly manicured fingers. Ashley stood up from the couch, her face pale, staring at her sister like she'd never seen her before. I set the papers down carefully on the coffee table, my electrician's hands steady despite the surreal situation. "How long have you been planning this particular surprise?" "A few weeks," Sarah said, still smiling like she'd done something clever. "I've been thinking about what I really want in life, and I realized I need someone who can match my ambitions, someone who understands that image and status matter in business relationships, someone who doesn't come home with dirt under his fingernails." Megan added helpfully, her voice dripping with the kind of casual cruelty that comes from too much wine and too little conscience. That's when I understood completely. This wasn't about irreconcilable differences. This was about embarrassment, about the fact that I worked with my hands for a living instead of sitting in an air-conditioned office pushing papers around. About the fact that when her real estate friends asked what her husband did, she had to say electrician instead of account executive or sales manager, or whatever other white-collar job would look better on her social media posts. The beautiful irony was that these people couldn't function without what I did. Every light switch they flipped, every outlet they plugged their phones into, every circuit that powered their perfect holiday decorations, all of it depended on people like me who understood how electricity actually worked. I looked around the room at her friends, her family, the people who had just witnessed her Christmas morning ambush. "I see," I said calmly, my voice cutting through this uncomfortable silence like a clean wire strip. "And the $18,000 in our joint account?" Her smile flickered for just a second, the first crack in her perfectly orchestrated performance. We can discuss that later, through our attorneys." "No," I said, pulling out my phone with the deliberate precision I used when wiring a critical circuit. "We can discuss it right now." I opened my banking app while everyone watched, the room so quiet I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. With a few taps, I initiated a transfer, $9,000, exactly half the money I'd earned through countless Saturday mornings and Sunday afternoons working overtime, moved from our joint account to my personal savings. The transaction completed with a soft chime that sounded absurdly cheerful in the tense atmosphere. "There," I said, sliding the phone back into my pocket. "Disgust." Sarah's face went white, then flushed red. The careful composure she'd maintained throughout her surprise ambush cracked completely. "You can't just—" "Actually, I can," I interrupted, standing up with the same methodical movement I used when approaching a live electrical panel. "Since you've already filed papers citing irreconcilable differences, and since you clearly don't want to be married to someone who works with his hands, this seems like the most appropriate next step. Clean separation, just like you wanted. The thing about being an electrician is you learn to work under pressure. When you're troubleshooting a system failure with a building full of people waiting for power, you don't get the luxury of panic. You assess the situation, identify the problem, and fix it step by step. Sarah's little Christmas morning performance was just another system failure. The marriage had been running on faulty wiring for months, and now it was time to shut down the circuit permanently. I looked around the room at her friends, her family, the people who'd just witnessed her Christmas morning ambush designed to humiliate me into some kind of desperate reaction. For what it's worth, I hope you find what you're looking for. Someone who meets your professional standards and doesn't embarrass you at dinner parties. But next time, maybe don't wait until Christmas morning to blow up someone's life for entertainment purposes. The silence that followed was beautiful in its completeness. Even Megan had nothing to add to her earlier commentary about dirty fingernails. I picked up the portfolio case I'd brought for Sarah and headed toward the door. Ashley followed me out to the driveway, her nursing shoes crunching on the frost-covered concrete. "Bryce, wait." I turned around. She was hugging herself against the December cold, still in her hospital scrubs, looking nothing like the polished real estate crowd inside. Where Sarah was all calculated perfection, Ashley had always been genuine, tired from 12-hour shifts, focused on helping people instead of networking with them. "I'm so sorry," she said, her breath visible in the cold air. "I had no idea she was planning this. If I'd known—" "Not your fault, Ashley. Your sister made her choice. Made it weeks ago, apparently." "She's been seeing someone," Ashley said quietly, glancing back at the house where we could hear muffled voices through the windows. "For about 4 months. Some sales manager named Marcus who drives a BMW and takes her to those expensive restaurants in Scottsdale, the kind of guy who wears suits to work and talks about building his personal brand. 4 months. I thought about all the late nights, all the phone calls taken in other rooms, all the times she'd suggested I should network better or think about advancing my career. It all made perfect sense now. She hadn't just been planning this divorce. She'd been auditioning my replacement. She told him you were just a tradesman who'd never amount to anything," Ashley continued, her voice getting stronger as her anger built. "Said he was exactly the kind of ambitious professional she needed to support her business goals." The cold satisfaction that settled in my chest was better than any Christmas bonus I'd ever received. "Why are you telling me this?" Ashley looked directly at me, and for the first time I really noticed her eyes. Dark brown, intelligent, completely different from Sarah's calculating stare. Because what she did in there was cruel and wrong. Because you handled it with more class than she deserved. And because, she paused, seeming to gather courage. Because I've always thought you were too good for her. Way too good. You've thought that for a while? Since last Christmas, when you spent the whole evening asking me about my nursing program, while Sarah ignored us both to work the room like a networking event. You're the only person in that family who ever treated my job like it mattered, like helping people was actually important work. I looked at this woman who just worked a 12-hour shift caring for patients, who came home tired but never complained, who saw value in work that actually helped people instead of just generating commissions. The contrast with her sister couldn't have been more stark. "What she did to you was calculated cruelty," Ashley said. "She wanted you to break down, to beg, to prove how much you needed her. She got off on the idea of humiliating you in front of everyone. And instead, she got a man who knows his worth and won't dance to manipulative music." Ashley smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen all day. That wasn't in her script. Inside the house, I could hear raised voices. Sarah's performance was apparently getting some negative reviews from her audience. I drove home to our apartment, my apartment now, I supposed, and spent the rest of Christmas Day methodically packing. Sarah's things went into boxes with the same careful organization I use for electrical components. Her real estate awards, her networking event photos, her collection of self-help books about building your personal brand. All of it packed away like defective equipment being returned to the supplier. My tools, my clothes, my furniture, the stuff I'd paid for with honest electrician money, went into my truck. By evening, I'd found a one-bedroom place across town, near the industrial district, where most of the electrical contractors had their shops. Nothing fancy, but it was clean and quiet and mine. The deposit came from my newly liberated $9,000, and it felt like the best money I'd ever spent. Sarah called around 9 p.m., her voice tight with barely controlled panic. "You're being completely ridiculous. We need to talk about this like adults." "We did talk," I said, setting down a box of my work manuals. "You handed me divorce papers on Christmas morning and announced I wasn't ambitious enough for your business goals. What's left to discuss?" "The money, for one thing. You can't just steal half our savings because you're upset." I almost laughed. "Steal? I took exactly half of money I earned. You know, from that job you're so embarrassed by. The one that paid for everything in that savings account while you were busy networking with married sales managers." Dead silence on her end. Then, "Who told you about Marcus?" "Does it matter? It's true, isn't it?" Another silence, longer this time. "Look, maybe I was hasty. Maybe we can work something out. We don't have to go through with the divorce if you're willing to talk about making some changes." The desperation in her voice was almost musical. Her perfect plan was already falling apart. Probably because Marcus wasn't as enthusiastic about his side piece becoming officially available. "You mean maybe Marcus isn't as interested now that you're actually single? Maybe having an affair is more exciting than having a relationship? That's not fair." "Fair?" I set down the box and really focused on the conversation. "You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been discussing your concerns about our marriage before consulting an attorney. Fair would have been couples counseling. Fair would have been basic human decency. What you did was plan a public humiliation because you thought it would make you feel powerful. You're twisting everything around. I was trying to be honest about my feelings. You were trying to be theatrical. There's a difference. You wanted me to break down and beg so you could feel validated and important. Instead, you got a man who knows his worth and won't audition for the role of desperate ex-husband." I hung up and blocked her number. The apartment felt peaceful after that. Quiet in the way only comes when toxic noise finally stops. The next few days were surprisingly productive. I went back to work the day after Christmas, and my crew leader, Colton, immediately noticed something different about me. "You look like a man who just fixed a major electrical problem," he said, watching me wire a panel box at the new medical complex. Relaxed, focused. "What happened?" "Wife filed for divorce on Christmas morning," I told him, not looking up from connecting the ground wires. "Handed me the papers as a Christmas gift. Said she needed someone who matched her professional ambitions." Colton whistled low, the sound echoing in the unfinished corridor. Jesus, how you holding up? Better than I expected. Turns out being married to someone who's embarrassed by your profession is exhausting. I didn't realize how much energy I was wasting trying to be good enough for someone who thought honest work was beneath her standards. Word spread through the crew pretty quickly. Electricians are like any tight-knit profession. Information travels fast, and people look out for each other. By lunch, 3 different guys had offered to take me out for drinks. Mason, one of the younger electricians who'd just finished his apprenticeship, shook his head in disbelief. She really said that about your job? About making good money doing skilled work? Among other things, apparently having dirt under your fingernails is a deal breaker when you're trying to build your personal brand. That's insane, brother. You're certified in commercial and residential. You understand 3-phase systems. You can troubleshoot anything. That's skilled work that requires actual knowledge, not just pushing papers around an office. The thing about working with your hands is it creates a different kind of respect among the people who understand what you do. These guys knew the difference between someone who could wire a building safely and someone who just talked about synergistic solutions in air-conditioned conference rooms. Her loss, said Tony, our senior guy who'd been doing electrical work for 25 years. You'll find someone who appreciates what you bring to the table. Someone who understands that keeping the lights on is more important than whatever fancy car you drive to make it happen. Already met someone, actually, I said, and surprised myself by saying it. But it was true. Ashley's genuine interest in my work, her respect for skilled labor, had made more of an impression than I'd realized. Yeah? Tell us about her. She's a nurse, works 12-hour shifts taking care of people, thinks honest work matters more than office politics. Colton grinned. Sounds like an upgrade in every way that counts. That afternoon, Ashley texted me. How are you holding up? Good, actually. Better than expected. How's the family drama? Sarah's been having meltdowns since yesterday. Dad told her he's ashamed of how she handled things. Mom's not speaking to her at all. The Christmas ambush didn't get the reaction she wanted from anyone, including her target audience. Especially her target audience. She keeps saying you're supposed to fight for the marriage, supposed to prove how much you care about her. She wants me to chase her, I replied to Ashley. To prove I can be just as dramatic and desperate as she is. That's not happening. Good, because there's more you should know about Marcus. We started meeting for coffee regularly after that first conversation. Nothing romantic at first, just honest talk between 2 people who'd been watching the same train wreck from different angles. Ashley told me about growing up with Sarah, about how her sister had always needed to be the center of attention, always testing people to see how much drama they'd tolerate. She used to do this in high school, Ashley explained during one of our coffee meetings. Date guys just to see if she could make them jealous enough to fight over her. It was like she needed constant proof that she was worth competing for. And Marcus was supposed to be my replacement in this little drama? More than that. She's been telling people for months that she was trading up to someone with real ambition. Marcus became her proof that she deserved better than a blue-collar husband. The beautiful thing about consequences is they don't care about your plans or your timeline. 2 weeks after the Christmas disaster, Ashley called me with news that was better than any revenge I could have plotted myself. Marcus's wife found out about the affair. I was installing outlets at a new office building, but I stopped what I was doing to give this conversation my full attention. How? Credit card statements. Apparently, Marcus had been charging all those expensive dinners with Sarah to his personal card, the one his wife monitors for their household budget. When she saw multiple charges at high-end restaurants during times he was supposedly working late, she started asking questions. The satisfaction was immediate and warming, like the first sip of coffee on a cold morning. What happened? She called Sarah's real estate office yesterday, introduced herself as Mrs. Marcus Johnson, and asked to speak with Sarah about her close working relationship with her husband. Said she was concerned about all the after-hours meetings and weekend showings they'd been doing together. I actually laughed out loud, the sound echoing in the empty office space. Please tell me someone was there to witness this. Sarah's assistant took the call and put it through to Sarah's office. Apparently, the whole conversation was loud enough for everyone in the office to hear. Mrs. Johnson had done her homework. She had dates, times, restaurant receipts, everything. She wasn't calling to accuse. She was calling to confirm what she already knew. How's Sarah handling the spotlight? Not well. Marcus completely cut contact with her the same day. Blocked her number, blocked her on social media, the whole digital disappearing act. Turns out when you're cheating on your wife, you don't want the affair partner calling and texting when everything blows up. The irony was perfect. Sarah had wanted a man who cared more about image and status than genuine connection. And she got exactly that. Marcus cared so much about his image that the moment their relationship became inconvenient, he erased her completely. 3 weeks after Christmas, Brady called me. Sarah's father had always been polite but distant, the kind of father-in-law who tolerated his daughter's choices without really embracing them. "Bryce, I owe you an apology, a big one." "For what?" "For not seeing what kind of person my daughter really is, for not recognizing that you're a good man who deserved better than the treatment you got in my house." I was genuinely surprised. Brady had never been openly critical of Sarah before. What changed? Watching how you handled Christmas morning, watching how you've conducted yourself since, and watching how she's been acting now that her backup plan fell through. He paused. "She came to us asking for money yesterday, said she needs $15,000 to get back on her feet and establish her independence." 15,000? That's what caught my attention too. Exactly the amount she would have had if she'd gotten your half of the savings account. She'd already spent her portion on deposits for a new apartment in Scottsdale, furniture, a wardrobe upgrade, all the things she thought she'd need for her new life with Marcus. The mathematics of consequence were beautiful. Sarah had planned her upgrades so carefully, budgeting for her transition from electrician's wife to sales manager's girlfriend. When Marcus disappeared, she was left holding bills she couldn't afford and a lifestyle she couldn't maintain. "What did you tell her?" "I told her that adults face the consequences of their choices, that humiliating a good man publicly tends to have lasting effects, and that if she wanted financial independence, she should have thought about the math before she started spending money she didn't actually have." That evening, Ashley and I met for dinner instead of coffee. Nothing fancy, a local place that served good food without pretending to be more than it was. She looked tired but content, the way someone looks after a long day of meaningful work. "You know what I've always respected about your job?" she said, cutting into her chicken. "It's essential. Hospitals can't function without reliable electrical systems. Neither can schools, offices, homes. None of it works without people who understand how to make electricity do what it's supposed to do safely." It was such a simple observation, but it hit me harder than I expected. Sarah had spent 3 years making me feel like my work was something to apologize for or overcome. Ashley saw it as foundational, necessary, worthy of respect. "Sarah never understood that," I said. "Sarah's never understood the difference between looking successful and being genuinely valuable. She's always been focused on appearances over substance, even when we were kids." "What was she like growing up?" "Exhausting. Everything had to be about her. Every family dinner became a performance where she needed to be the most interesting person in the room. She couldn't just be happy. She needed everyone else to be witnesses to her happiness." 4 months later, I was installing the electrical system for a new medical facility when Ashley stopped by during her lunch break. She brought coffee for both of us and watched me work with genuine interest, asking questions about the specialized equipment requirements, understanding that what I was doing would directly support her profession. "This whole wall of outlets is for the cardiac monitoring equipment," I explained, showing her the dedicated circuits I was installing. "And these red outlets are on emergency power backup. If the main power fails, these systems keep running." "That's incredible," she said, watching me connect the ground wires with practiced precision. "You're literally building the infrastructure that saves lives. When someone's heart stops and we shock them back, the electricity that does it comes through systems you installed." It was such a simple connection, but it hit me hard. Sarah had spent 3 years making me feel like my work was somehow less important than pushing real estate contracts around. Ashley understood that keeping the lights on in a cardiac unit was more critical than any sales quota or networking event. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in July. Sarah had to pay her own legal fees. Turned out Marcus's sudden disappearance and her parents' financial ultimatum had left her scrambling to cover costs she'd never planned for. Ashley and I were painting our new house that evening, a modest 3-bedroom in a good neighborhood that we'd bought with combined savings from my electrical work and her nursing salary. "Do you think she's learned anything from all this?" Ashley asked, rolling paint onto the living room wall. "I think she's learned that actions have consequences," I said, cutting in around the window trim with steady electrician's hands. Whether she's learned anything about treating people with basic human decency, that's harder to say. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Sarah. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted to say, I'm sorry. You deserve better than what I did to you. I hope you're happy." I showed the message to Ashley. "Are you going to respond?" she asked. I thought about it for a moment, then typed back, "I am happy. I hope you find what you're looking for." Then I blocked that number too, and went back to painting the house I'd bought with a woman who understood that honest work and decent character were worth more than any status symbol. Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic confrontation or elaborate payback schemes. Sometimes it's simply building a better life with someone who appreciates what you have to offer. Someone who sees your calloused hands as evidence of competence, not embarrassment. Someone who understands that the lights staying on matters more than the car you drive to make it happen. 6 months after the divorce was final, Colton promoted me to senior electrician. The raise came with a company truck and responsibility for training new apprentices. Ashley threw a small celebration dinner at our house, inviting my crew and some of her nurse friends. Watching the two groups mix, people who fixed things and people who healed things, I realized I'd found my tribe. "You know what's funny?" Mason said, raising his beer in a toast. "That woman thought she was trading up when she left you. Turns out she was trading a craftsman for a con man. And now she's working double shifts trying to pay off credit cards while you're living with someone who actually appreciates skilled work," added Tony. "That's what we call poetic justice." The best part was how normal it all felt. No drama, no manipulation, no games. Just two people who worked hard, respected each other's professions, and built something solid together. Christmas morning, 2025 came with snow in Phoenix, a rare gift that made everything look clean and new. Ashley and I opened presents in our own living room. She gave me a new cordless drill set, top-of-the-line equipment that would make my work more efficient. I gave her a pendant necklace with a small stethoscope charm, recognizing the tool that defined her profession the way wire strippers defined mine. "Real gifts," she said, modeling the necklace. "Thoughtful gifts from people who actually know and value each other. No surprises, no public humiliations, no hidden agendas," I agreed. "Just two people who understand that work matters, character matters, and treating people with respect isn't optional." My phone stayed silent all morning. No unknown numbers trying to get through, no dramatic messages, no attempts at manipulation. Just genuine peace and the growing certainty that walking away from that Christmas morning ambush had been the best decision of my life. Around noon, we drove past the neighborhood where Sarah's parents lived. The house looked smaller somehow, less impressive than it had seemed during those awkward family gatherings. Ashley pointed out that Sarah's car wasn't in the driveway. She'd moved to a smaller apartment across town after her Scottsdale upgrade plans fell through. "Do you ever wonder how things might have been different?" Ashley asked. "You mean if she hadn't been embarrassed by honest work? If she'd valued character over status?" I considered it. Maybe. But then I wouldn't have found you, and I wouldn't have learned what I actually deserve in a relationship. "What's that?" "Someone who thinks my job is essential, not embarrassing. Someone who sees skilled work as valuable, not something to overcome. Someone who understands that building things people need is more important than building a social media image." Ashley smiled, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "Someone who knows that keeping the lights on is heroic work, especially when those lights are in a cardiac unit." That evening, we sat on our front porch watching our neighbors hang Christmas decorations, their houses glowing with the electrical systems that made modern life possible. Every light switch, every outlet, every safely installed circuit represented someone like me who understood how to harness electricity without getting killed by it. Sarah had wanted someone who matched her ambitions, and she'd gotten exactly that. A man whose primary ambition was avoiding the consequences of his choices. I'd ended up with someone whose ambitions aligned with mine: do meaningful work, treat people well, and build something lasting together. Best Christmas gift I ever received, disguised as the worst.